Good morning, glorious croppers. Welcome to my third Sketch Club video. I'm a week late because I came home from the last retreat with COVID and it's been this long since I could actually breathe out of both nostrils and talk at the same time. So that's why I'm a little bit delayed. So you'll get me 2 weeks in a row this time, that's all. And Emily and I take turns with this, so she will also be doing her version of the Sketch Club this week as well. So you get all the wealth of information this week. Okay, so this is the sketch that I've picked for this week, and I'm going to really throw you off because I'm not going in order anymore. This is page 55. Okay, and when I chose this sketch originally, I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. I can show people how to use the 45-degree line on the trimmer. Turns out it is not the 45-degree line on the trimmer. It's a little more old school than that. Super easy, even though it looks complicated. I think you'll enjoy it. This is a version of the sketch that I have already made. And what I really like about this one is how it takes the complete contrast across the background of the page. And so that's what I decided that I really wanted to feature in this. Don't mind my sideways writing on my photo placeholder. I have it out for printing now, so I'll have it back soon. But this is a page that I made about my fur baby who is all wound up and running around here. So she may crash or make a large noise in the background at some point. Nothing less would be expected, right? Okay, so let's break down the sketch because we're going to start today with my tooltip. And it's going to be, you're going to roll your eyes and say, oh, but we've already done this. It's gutting paper. But today it's gutting paper with a little more purpose than usual. Usually when we gut the outside frame of the paper, gutting, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is where you cut basically a frame out of your paper and you cut the whole inside piece out, because that way it's for two reasons. It saves paper so that you have more paper to use on other layouts. And also it decreases the weight on the layout itself when you're layering a lot of pieces of paper. So it makes it less bulky when you put it in your album. So both of those things are obviously to the positive. But we're going to start with gutting paper today. And let me just show you really quickly. I decided to make a page about soup because I love soup. I eat it all year. I cook it a lot. And I thought in my album, that's kind of an all about me type of album, that would be a good place to mention the fact that I like to eat soup. And I have these great stickers that are the Good Eats and Treats stickers. This was not a collection that came with paper. It was only a sticker collection. But it's going to be perfect for this, even though I've managed to bend up the corner a little bit there. And then all of my cardstock choices today, or all of my paper choices today, are from the Totally Tonal packs. So I have from the Totally Tonal Avocado and from the Beige. And this piece is actually a scrap. It's not a full 12 by 12. This is from the Pumpkin, the Totally Tonal Pumpkin collection. So this is what I'm going to be using today. And so I'm going to show you how to gut the paper, but I need to backtrack a little bit here. Let's talk about the measurements on the sketch. So this is the 12 by 12 part of the page. And then when you look at the measurements of the sketch itself, you'll see this section that's designated by the white area here is 9.5 by 9.5. And this little frame around it is 9 3/4 by 9 3/4. Okay, so what we're actually going to do is we're going to use the entire piece of paper. Okay, and we're going to gut the outside edge, and then the inside piece that we would ordinarily set aside, we're going to flip over, and that's going to become our center. So that's where the tooltip comes in. We have to do a little math, because if this section in the middle, if we know that has to be 9.5 by 9.5, and it's coming out of a 12-inch square piece of paper, then the math on that means that we have to gut the paper at 1 1/4 inches instead of our usual 1 inch. Usually 1 inch is enough to cover a variety of sizes that you want to put in the middle, but this is how we're going to do it today. So what I have done to make it easier for demonstration purposes, but you can do it too, if you don't feel super comfortable with eyeballing it, you can see I just took my Creative Memories journaling pen and I put a little mark at the 1 1/4 inch on each side so that I will be able to see exactly where to line up my blade when I'm making the cut. So there's two components of this. The first component is we are not going to line it up on the 1 inch line. We're going to line it up on the 1 1/4 inch line over here. So that's the first thing. That gives us our 1 1/4 edge spacing. And then I'm just going to match it up with where I have those little marks. And by the way, they rub right off, so it's nothing you have to worry about unless you want them to be permanently located there. In which case, I would recommend that you use a Sharpie instead of one of the journaling pens, because the journaling pens do rub off. And I like that because usually when I mark my trimmer for a project, I just want it for this one, one and done, and I can that way mark it again and again each time I need to. So I'm completing the gut of the paper by lining it up. Oops, I almost goofed there. Almost put it on the 1 inch line. It's going on the 1 1/4 all the way around. So if you have a spot like this one that didn't quite cut, you can just give it a little snip to finish the cut there. And let's get the trimmer out of the way. Okay, so here's your gutted paper, right? And this piece is actually going to be the piece that's in the center. The only problem with that is that unless you put something else behind it to keep it together, there's no overlap. So there's no way to fix your adhesive on that. So what the sketch is doing instead is it's having you give it a little frame out of 9 3/4 by 9 3/4. So that's what I chose the pumpkin paper for. It'll just be a little pop of contrast. And this is a pretty small frame altogether. So let's go ahead and measure that out at 9 3/4. By 9 3/4. Okay, so this will just be a shade bigger than your center piece. Trying to figure out how to not bury everything that I need to use in a minute. Okay, so you get a nice little skinny frame on that. And because this is such a bold color, it's really going to highlight itself, but I don't want it to take over. This is that little corner that I snipped and I wasn't quite straight, so I'm just gonna fix that. All right, so let's go ahead and adhere that. And this is just like matting a photo. So you can put your adhesive right on the piece that you are actually going to adhere down. But in a second, we're gonna get to my pro tip for this week, which goes along with gutting paper. Oops. Let's get that. There we go. Okay. So now when you go to adhere this to the page, there's just a little bit of overlap. So you'll actually be able to adhere it to the page. But if you were to turn it over and just start putting your adhesive wherever, it would be very possible that your adhesive would end up being in the hole. So my pro tip for this week is that when you are attaching an edge piece like this, you want to go ahead and put your adhesive on the edge of the opening where you know that it is going to actually grab the paper and attach it. All right. And I'm not too worried right now about the fact that some of my adhesive has actually gone over, because I will be able to turn that over before I make the final layout attachment, and I will be able to roll it up onto the paper so that it won't leave a sticky spot. All right, so that's what I'm gonna do now. So any place that adhesive sticks out over the edge, I'm just going to turn it back onto itself. Right there and right there, okay? So that way, there won't be a sticky spot. You'll see it won't stick to the mat, or it won't stick to other pages in your book that aren't done yet. And then I'm going to go ahead and attach it. And I just want to make sure that I'm going to cover all of those openings. Now, you have the adhesive problem on this side. You could overcome this by using your repositionable adhesive and then just roll it off with your finger. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and push any adhesive that sticks out. It's where I went too wide with my application of the adhesive. And I'm just going to push it up inside so that it won't stick out and show or be sticky where I don't want it to be sticky. Okay? But in this particular case, I do want to use my permanent adhesive because of the fact that this is attaching something to a pretty good-sized hole, and I want to be sure that for the small amount of real estate that I have adhesive on, I want to be sure that it actually grabs and attaches. So the tool that I'm using here, it's called the multi-purpose tool. And if you don't have one of these, it will rapidly become quite indispensable, I think. I really love this tool because one of the many things that it does is when you're positioning stickers or something like that, I have the acrylic nails. So this gives me a lot of precision about where I can place it. It also helps me do things like place the foam adhesives, and you'll see that a little later today. But okay, so we've got the base of our layout pretty much constructed here. I can see I missed a piece of the adhesive. Let me just get that. Easier said than done, right? Okay, there we go. All right, so this creates the base of the layout. This is the 12-inch portion of it, and then the centerpiece with the frame. So the next piece we have to do is we need to figure out the cross piece. And the way that's going to be measured out, it's not as difficult as it looks. We're actually going to cut a strip of paper that is 3 3/4 inches wide. Okay. By the full 12 inches. And then that's going to lay across your center portion of the layout here. And what you're going to do is, the way I position mine, this is a choice. You could measure from the corner in and the corner in to decide where you actually want to make your cut. But I push mine ever so slightly up towards the center. So it's about 1 inch here and about 3/4 of an inch here. And when you position your paper, what you want to be sure of is that the corners go off the, I would say have them go off the white piece. You could try to get them to make sure they go all the way off the orange piece as well, but we're going to cover that with a sticker. So it doesn't really matter too much what you want to do with that. And then just take a pencil and mark the location on either side of where you want to make that cut. Okay. And then we're going to go back to the trimmer. Oops, let me put it right side up for consistency's sake. Okay, so what you're going to do here is you're going to look for those 2 pencil marks, and you're going to put them up against the cutting line. So your mark is here and your mark is here on your cutting line. And then when you make your cut, you'll have the perfect angle that you need for that for the layout, okay? So again, match up your pencil marks, and there we go. And now we're all set And you can decide, like for example, when I first fit the paper, I did it this way, but it will fit either way. So you can decide at that point if you still want to keep your paper that way or if you want to make a little adjustment. And then just kind of, I like, as Dawn knows, I like to do what I call dry fitting. So I like to place it exactly where I want it without putting any adhesive on it, just to be sure that that's really where I want it to be. And it is, so I'm gonna go ahead and adhere it at that point. Now, if this was really fussy placement, then one of the things that you could do is hold it in place with your hand and just lift up one corner of the paper and put your adhesive down without removing the whole sheet of paper. But I'm pretty confident I can get it back where I want it to be, so I'm not gonna worry too much about that at this point. Okay. And then you're going to go ahead and adhere it down. Now, don't worry about those little pencil marks there, because as I said, we're gonna put one of those border stickers, the line stickers across the edge of that. So that will cover up any indiscretions you might have with your pencil line. So we have one more part of measuring to do. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut a 1.5 inch, no, I'm sorry, a 1 1/4 inch strip. That's this part right here on the edge. And those are 1 1/4 inch. So since I have a 12 inch piece of paper, I'm gonna cut my 1 1/4 inch strip. And then I'm gonna cut it further into the 4.5. It says 4.5 inch strips are what you need for the side there. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut those and just lay them there for a second. Okay, so those are gonna be my edge pieces. Let me get this out of the way. And what you're gonna do with this is you're going to match it up with the piece you already have there. So it's a non-specific measurement here. It's 4.5 just to be sure that you have enough. But what you're basically gonna do is you're going to go ahead, and I am using the inside piece, not the frame, to make my marks. I know that, so it's no problem there. And I'm gonna go ahead and mark my cutting lines there. And I'll do this one as well. Okay, this one, I obviously don't have this piece quite centered because I can't quite go all the way up to the edge there, but again, it'll be covered with the sticker, so it'll be okay. All right, so let's go ahead and again, we're gonna match up our, oh, you know what I did? All right, let's put these back in place. Instead of just making the mark this time, we're gonna go ahead and use the ruler along the edge. So you might have to do a little readjusting because you'll need to make sure that your ruler edge goes all the way to the corner so that you don't have a cut off corner in a place that you don't want it. Okay, does that make sense? I think you'll see in a moment. That's why it requires the 4.5, because when you're going up at the angle, you need to make sure that your leftover piece is long enough so that you don't go off the edge and have your corner be squared off like that. And then we can take that to the trimmer and cut the pencil edge. Okay. And then it will be ready to adhere in just a moment. Now, I did a little tiny bit of adjustment on the fly there so I can see my pencil mark all the way across. So I will come back with an eraser in a moment and get rid of that. But let's just make sure that we can get this side right as well. Here's a good example of what I was talking about. See this little green triangle here? That's because I have to move this piece so that it will be completely concealed by that. And that way I know that my line will be in the right place. Okay. And it's a tight fit. Basically what you want to do is put the top corner up against the corner of where you're going to cut so that you have enough paper to make your decision in both places. Okay. And then you just want to make sure you don't move it too much. So that your angle stays correct. Okay, and there we go. I've got my cutting lines. Let me trim this. So it's not difficult to make these cuts. It's just a little bit like fussy cutting. You just want to be, it's better to measure twice and cut once than to measure once and cuss twice. That's what I tell Emily all the time. So that's the trick to that. It's kind of like a construction thing. You want to make sure you get that right. Okay, so let me go ahead with my eraser and take my pencil lines down because that part won't be covered by a sticker. Okay. And I'm good at a lot of things, but I would not be good at the mental gymnastics necessary to draw my pencil line on the other side and still get my angle correct. So I'd rather do the erasing part and know that I have it right without wasting a lot of paper to make multiple cuts. Okay, so at this point, you're good to go on putting your adhesive on the back here and making your attachment. And if your piece is a little too generously cut and goes way over the side, which I think mine is going to do down here, just trim it off. No big deal. No harm, no foul. Now, I have a lot of people ask me, I am a little bit frugal when it comes to the whole adhesive thing. I don't use tons of adhesive. You don't need tons of adhesive. See how you have this overlap over here? We'll just give that a little trim. Okay, and I actually did, you can see here, I actually did square off right there just a touch of my corner, but that's not going to be a problem because I made sure I turned it so that it would be in the spot where the sticker is going to take care of that for me. So on the back, I'm going to go ahead and hand trim. You could do this with your trimmer too, but I'm not always successful at getting it to butt right up against it, so I'd rather hand cut that. Okay. And there is the basis for your layout. So let's take a look here. The next part of the construction is to go ahead and put the photos on, and they have the larger photo matted. I'm going to show you what I did because I'm going to change the design just a little bit. Instead of having a vertical and a horizontal 4x3, I'm going to have two horizontal ones because that happens to be the size of the pictures that I took for this particular situation. So I'm going to change the orientation of those just a bit. And then this photo here, the size they have is 4 by 5.5. So the width is going to be fine. We just want to take off a 1/2 inch. And I think I'm going to do that by taking off a 1/4 inch on each side, because I don't want to completely cut off the tip of my knife. I'd rather cut off the end of my little dish there. Okay. All right, so this is roughly the layout that my photos are going to go in, like this. And the reason I chose these papers, by the way, is because I have this heinous green cutting board, but I really like it and it's dishwasher safe and I keep using it. So when I take pictures of my beautiful food, I don't see how ugly my cutting board is until I see the picture. So this way it doesn't completely detract from it. So I know that's the positioning of my photos, and then I'm going to take a look at my stickers to build this little sticker cluster over here, because it kind of makes the title in the sample layout because of the stickers that they use. But there are a lot of word stickers in here, which I think are going to work for me. And by the way, I am going to use this sticker here with the silverware to make my edges here. So we'll do that in just a second. So I think we're going to go with food is my love language. And maybe let's do good food, good mood, because it's the right color combination. So I'm just going to stick those off to the side for a minute here. I'm going to put them this way so I don't end up sticking them to my shirt. And then maybe the yum, because that'll kind of pick up that dark orangey color of the matte of the paper. All right, so let's go ahead and get that sticker edge on there. It's going to go right across the seam here. So let's see what that would look like. Oh, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and just hand cut the sticker. Okay, and that will cover up my paper seam. A little too high, Kate, a little too high. Okay. So you can see if you have any little stray pencil mark marking those points or anything like that, it's going to be disguised. And then on this side, let's have the spoon be the lead. So I'm just giving my little fussy cut on the sticker a little bit of the shape of the spoon up there, so that it looks finished. And you can see what I did on the other layout. I'll get my sample over here in just a second so you can see what I did there was to actually, it's a bigger edge sticker. It's the paw prints, but I still kind of fussy cut around the edges of them so that, you know, it looked finished enough to be the border edge on that. And these will work really nicely for that. Okay, so I think I'm gonna use, to mat the photo, what to do. I think I'm gonna see about that avocado. And I'll go even a tick darker for that. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay. So since my photo is 4 by 5.5, you can see here the photo mat is 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. So that's the size that I want to cut. I'm going to start with the 4 1/4. And then do the 5.5. Five and a half, by the way, is right to the edge of your cutting table here, plus just a tiny bit. So I usually don't get too overly precise about that, especially when I'm cutting a mat. Oh, but that's why, because I didn't cut off. I know why. I didn't trim the photo quite right. Let's go ahead and give that another shave and a haircut. 5.5, so 4 3/4. Now, see what happens when Kate has to do math on the fly. It never works out the way it's supposed to. 5.5 for the photo. I thought that I did cut off enough, but let's give it just another tiny trim there. There we go. That'll work. Okay. I do know why. I cut the mat the wrong size. That's why. By 1/4 inch. But that's okay. We made it work. All right. So, see? This is the problem. Nothing's ever perfect, right? Even when you plan for it. All right. There we go. And this will give enough contrast from the background, from all the colors, without interfering with the screen too much. So I'm pretty happy with that. The other two photos are not matted in the example. I'm going to sort of send these towards the center so it looks like they're evenly spaced here. And then I think I'm just gonna put this one underneath it here. And I still have room for journaling down here instead of the journaling being up here while the photo comes down here. And that will work well for my stickers too. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let me go ahead and attach those. Okay. That looks good. So that'll be the base that I work off of for my other photos. What I did basically was eyeball the spacing here, make sure I was happy with that. And then I'm just gonna give this a quick double check to make sure these two edges look pretty good, and they do. So there we go. All right. So now I'm ready for the embellishment portion of it. Now you can see we already did the stickers here, and I'm going to build a little embellishment cluster down here as it suggests in the layout. And because I found on the sticker sheet, this is probably supposed to be a bowl for rice or something like that, but I'm going to use it as a soup bowl. So I'm going to build that as the base for my sticker cluster. And I like that because the brown colors really play off of the neutral in here. Now there are some silverware on here. So let me get that spoon because we definitely want that on there. Okay. And what else? I think I'm gonna actually use some of the hearts in here. Oh, you know what? I ate this. Well, no, undecided on that one yet. But I'm gonna go ahead with some of the stickers, the sticker hearts that are gonna play off. They already have cat hair on them. Perfect. That's my life in a nutshell. Cat hair on everything. Okay, and I'm gonna build my hearts up here. And there are some hearts in the sticker pack that are in the blue tones, but I think I'm gonna stick with the more neutrals so that we have that. And then I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna build out my sticker cluster. And I think what I'm gonna do is have this overlap the photo. So make sure we get that straight. And then I'll do the food is my love language underneath that. Even with the base of the photo. And then I'm gonna do my favorite little, I use a lot of the foam adhesive when I am embellishing my pages. I don't mind the bulk. I just don't put as many total pages in my album. But there are some kinds of albums, like if you're doing a vacation album or something like that, where you want to make sure that you can fit all of your pictures into the album, you may want to decrease the bulk by not including so many dimensional embellishments, and that's fine. Now, this is a good example of what I tend to do with these stickers, because when you have a lot of pieces that come up, like this is an alpha sticker, I'm actually going to cut the dimensional adhesive into pieces that will be the right size for those legs. Because if you don't put any dimensional adhesive there, when you have it in the center, your sticker is going to go down like this, and it's going to create a dome, and eventually it's going to stick to your page, which is exactly what you don't want to have happen. You want it to be, you want it to stay elevated. There are some people who are a little more precise with this, and what they will actually do is put a little bit of baking soda on the sticker before they attach their dimensional adhesives. And the reason for the baking soda is that it's not a food item. It's not reactive. You don't want to use cornstarch because you could be inviting insects to find a little place to take up residence inside your album, and that is not the desired effect. So the baking soda is going to be a good neutral substance for that. But what I do to combat that is I just make sure that I use enough adhesive, dimensional adhesive, so that there's no particular place on my sticker that's going to touch down and touch the page and stick. So then I'm not actually too worried about neutralizing the sticky stuff on the back of the sticker. Okay, and the other thing that that does for you is that it allows you, just make sure I'm not covering anything up there, when your page is being closed and it's being pressed down by other pages, the adhesive that's positioned this way is kind of all over the sticker, so you don't end up with, you know, a dent in the middle or one side that's tilted down or anything like that. And overall, you end up being much more pleased with the end result. So here's my layout, and I used the word stickers as the title for this. I'm going to go ahead and use my brown journaling pen to just add the date. So I have that for posterity. And this is going to go into my All About Me album, which is just totally random things about me. I can't wait to see how you guys interpret this sketch and what comes from you tinkering around with all of your papers and pictures. Post it. What I'll do is I'll post the still picture separate from the video. I'll post the still picture with my finished version of it, and I'll give you the hashtag and everything so that you remember what it is. And can't wait to see what you make. Have a great day.